First, I want to thank all the members, especially Kay, who worked on this funding package. If you remember when I became Speaker 3 years ago, one of the great frustrations around here was our broken appropriations process. We were really doing a big disservice to the taxpayer, and we are funding our military in absolute fits and starts. It was really hamstringing our military. We've got some work to do, but this funding package, when this funding package gets enacted, it will be 22 years since we have finished this many appropriation bills before the start of the fiscal year. That goes back to before I was in Congress. I am proud that we have been able to get to this point. I am proud that we are completing these bills, and we will have completed 75% of discretionary spending on time. First time in 22 years. One main thing that this does is that this brings certainty to our armed forces. This is the first time in a decade that the Defense Department has not had to operate under a continuing resolution. In our conversations with our military leaders, one message comes really loud and clear. They tell us this every year. Our military cannot continue operating without a sense of stability, without being able to plan for the long term. With this bill, we are giving our military that certainty that they so desperately need. That, along with more resources for readiness, for our troops, this will ensure that our military remains the world's leading fighting force. I urge my colleagues to support this bill, and I'm excited about this coming to the floor. Another big win this week, today on the floor, is the Federal Aviation Reauthorization Bill. This is just not your typical reauthorization bill. This helps us modernize the FAA and the air traffic control system so that it is far more efficient, so that people can travel more efficiently. It also brings a new system so that we can make sure that we are safer than ever before. This is an infrastructure bill. It also brings disaster relief funding to support those areas as they rebuild, and for those areas that are now still suffering under the Hurricane Florence. This bill reforms and strengthens our aviation system. This bill brings infrastructure, and it is a key part of our Better Off, Our Better Way agenda. I also want to say that this bill has an economic leadership Build Act in it. That's very important for us. This is a very important piece of legislation that will help America give our allies, and especially those nations in the developing world, alternatives to the One Belt, One Road strategy that China is trying to bring through. So this is a very, very important accomplishment. We've got a lot of work to do in the House this week. I know it's getting a little overshadowed, but I just want to say, when you look at it all, when it's all said and done, 2 years ago, we told you what an agenda looks like to get this country back on track. We told you what an agenda looks like to rebuild our military, to give our businesses, our small businesses, certainty they need by having regulations taken off their backs, and to overhaul this tax code so we can get prosperity. What's happening? We have prosperity. We have jobs. We have amazing economic statistics, great economic growth, and our members are very proud about the production of this Congress. We have passed almost 1,000 bills out of this House in this session of Congress, and because of that, Americans are better off now. Do you have any questions about this? Erica. Yeah, right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you have assurances from President Trump that he will sign the investment package?
Yes, I'm confident he will sign it. As you saw, it passed the Senate, 93-7, I think. This funds our military. This funds opioids. This does a lot of the things that we all want to accomplish together, and we've had very good conversations with the president.
So he's told you he will sign
Yes. Yeah.
it. Will the House be in session next week? And in company with that, do you expect the opioid package that the House last night to pass
This week. Yeah, this week.
House meeting next week?
I'll defer to the majority leader, but we think we'll get our work done.
There's no change in schedule.
No change in the schedule. Yeah. What have you said lately? Yeah, just kidding. Yeah.
No
So-
change in the schedule
right,
that
right.
we've laid out at the beginning of the year.
Thank you.
We'll
Anna.
tell you if there's any difference.
I'm just going back and I'll come around.
Do you support legislation to prevent more investigation if Rothstein is fired or resigns?
Look,
And also, do you think that Rothstein should testify in Congress to explain his election?
well, first, the president obviously should have political appointees that he has faith and confidence in. He's meeting with the president, I think, tomorrow. So I think we shouldn't step in the way of that. We should let the president work it out with Rod Rosenstein. I hope they have a good, productive conversation, and I think that's helpful. I'll say it, I've said this all along. The special prosecutor, the special counsel, should be free to complete his work. That goes without saying, and it should be free to complete its work without any political interference. I don't think he will be fired. I don't think the president's going to fire him. I don't think the president should fire him. Mueller, I'm talking about. Yeah, sorry, not Rosenstein, Mueller. Casey.
Mr.
Well, I think that's what the hearing is about. First of all, I think that Chuck Grassley has handled this in a professional way. I think it's important that both are heard, the accuser and Judge Kavanaugh. I would say that the professional way that this has been treated by the Senate Judiciary Committee stands in stark contrast to the way the Senate Democrats have handled this, sitting on this for weeks, dropping it after the hearings to try and implode this nomination. So I think it's fitting and proper that they hear from both sides this week, and then I'll defer to the Senate on how and when to act.
Do you think there should have been a reopening of the?
No, I think they should do exactly what they're doing. I think they're doing a good job.
Last question.
I have a question about
You're,
Catherine.
Catherine, yeah, that's right, yeah.
I have a question about Rosenstein. Okay, so we get past Thursday. Do you support your members who believe you should publicly testify about these McCabe memos? And if he refuses to publicly testify, do you support their move to sanction him?
Look, I will defer to the Judiciary Committee. I don't micromanage the committees around here. I'll defer to the Judiciary Committee as to what kind of hearings they want to have, what kind of witnesses they want to have. But I would say this, if you're going to stack the credibility of Rod Rosenstein against Andy McCabe, who was fired for lying, I'll go with Rod Rosenstein. I'll leave it at that.